So now we're going to start to measure the foot. And of course, again, you want to consider all the different style options you have available for the foot. We have a knee height, an ankle sock, a foot glove. Right now we're going to do the basic sock. And again, you want to be sure to fill out the burn assessment chart. And you want to fill out the details on the sock chart. Any detail you don't want, you want to put a line through and to circle the details that you do want, so that we know exactly how to make the garment for you. And again, we do measure in inches, not centimeters. You want to use a water-soluble marker when you measure as well as when you fit. And you want to write dark and large so that it comes through when being faxed to us. Another thing to consider when measuring the sock or the knee height is, again, we don't end mid-muscle, we end distal or proximal to the muscle. And you want to be sure that your measuring tape when measuring is not angled but straight. And all our lengths include elastic. One thing that you want to consider with the sock is where you're putting the opening. You want to be sure that the opening isn't on the burn, if possible. If it is on the burn, you want to be sure that you have a lining for it. If you open it through the center, you're going to get a much deeper opening and it will be easier to put the sock on. But some people have a problem with breakdown in the crease of their foot, so you may have to put it laterally or medially, and it won't be able to open as far. It can only open to the top or just proximal to the malleoli. Okay, so we're going to start measuring now. Now, if you've measured for a leg, which here's our mark where the leg ended, you want to be sure you start the ankle sock at least 2 inches higher than that, so that you have a good overlap, which is generally about 3 to 4 inches from the ankle bone. So this will be our 0 mark. And then you want to mark your locations for taking circumferences ahead of time, so you don't have to keep picking up the marker. So we want to get a circumference at the malleoli, the heel. So we're going to come straight up from the heel, the instep, and then the end of the foot. We'll get from the foot itself. So here's our 0, making sure the measuring tape is straight. It's 8.5. Then our next one, 7.25. Okay. Now we're at the ankle bone. I put my finger on the ankle bone to be sure I've actually covered and gone over it. Okay, now we're at the heel. You want to be sure you get the full breadth of the heel. And of course, you're putting all your circumferences down along the outside, instep, and you don't take a circumference on the ball of the foot. You can get that from the tracing. Okay, so now we're going to come and get our lengths. So of course our 0 is where we started. You have the foot pointed. And then you're just going to note here, where do you want it to end? We often end it just past the pinky toe, and that allows for anchorage to keep it from riding up. But some people want it to end right at the instep. And of course you're weighing it out with where they're burned. You always want to try and end it 1 to 2 inches past the end of the burn. So in this case we'll do an open sock and we'll end it at 9. I always get the full length as well, it's just a good reference point. So for an open sock, for length only, it's going to end at 9, and the full length was 10. So that's the basic measurements for doing a sock. And again, just to reiterate, you want to be sure you have a good overlap between the sock and the leg. And now for the closed sock, you use the same measures you took for the open sock, being sure you got your full length measure over here where it says for length only closed sock. And of course you'd circle closed in your details. And the main difference between the closed and open sock is that you're going to take a tracing of the foot with the closed sock, going all the way around the foot. And then you're going to mark where you took your instep circumference onto your tracing. And that's the main difference between the closed and open sock. Next we'll go on to a knee height, which again, you're taking a locator circumference, marking for your lengths, and then taking the rest of your circumference and getting your lengths. Now because we already have some marks from the ankle sock, we'll use them for the knee height. So the important thing with the knee height is, as with the elbow, you bend the elbow so that you get a starting point just proximal to the elbow. You do the same thing with the knee. You have the patient bend their knee, and then you come straight out from the back of the knee. Take your measure, mark in between the tapes, and get your first measure, which you would put, of course, right up here on your measuring chart. Then you make your marks for how often you want to measure coming down the leg, and as with the sock, you'll come down, get all your circumferences, taking measures as often as needed, depending on the contour of the leg and how many abnormalities there are. Mark your measures as with the sock along the side, and then come back and get your lengths. When we take the lengths, we have the patient point their foot. So next we'll go on to the foot glove. The difference with the foot glove is that you take a tracing of each individual toe. Your measures for the sock are the same, although you measure as if you were doing a closed sock. Choose your openings the same, although keep in mind that a foot glove is a bit harder for a patient to get on, especially if they're burned in their hands. So you want to consider that with your openings. Sometimes we do a center front opening. That makes it so much easier to get on than a side opening, but there can sometimes be problems with breakdown here in the ankle crease, so you have to weigh all that out. So first what we'll do is take the tracing of the foot. So again, with the foot glove, we're coming in between each individual toe. We only make the foot gloves one length at the toes, which is right down to the end of the toes. A long, open toe. Come around. There we go. And again, you mark the instep point. Okay, and then we'll lift that up here, and we have our tracing. And now we'll put our measures right directly onto the tracing. Oh, great. Okay. So I'll start to take circumferences of Van's starting at her big toe, now that she's a marked woman. And we have 2.5 at the base. So when I'm measuring the toes, I'm just coming right around the base, the same way you do with a finger. The top measure I'm getting at the base of the cuticle, the base of the nail, 2.5. Again, 1 3/4. Next to her base, 1 3/4 top, and so on, top and bottom of each toe, going down through the toes, so that your measures would be written like this across the foot. Be sure to measure as big and as dark as you can, because with faxing, it does fade, and it can be hard for us to read later on. Now there are different variations with the socks sometimes, but generally you need to end distal to the muscle or proximal to the muscle, and then choose your style for your foot. And that's it for the socks.